Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this NACVA YouTube live event, Mastering Financial Litigation. My name is Brian Jones, the Chief Operations Officer and Executive Vice President for the NACVA. I've had a great career growing with the organization and the industry. First and foremost, we're being joined today by Michael Kaplan and TJ Liles-Tims, two experts who have worked with NACVA to build the curriculum and training for our Master Analyst in Financial Forensics, MAFF Certification, but also some of the specialized training that we'll be talking about today. And I'm going to start with Michael Kaplan. Most of you may or may not know him. He's been in this industry teaching and leading training for over 2 decades. You probably have had him in a class or on a webinar, but Michael was very instrumental partnering with the NACVA in the 90s to move the organization from being focused on business valuation exclusively in the earlier years to rounding out our training and certification in financial litigation. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
Excellent.
And hello, TJ.
Hello.
Yeah, it was back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
Back in the late 90s, I was having a conversation with Parnell Black, our CEO, and I shared with him a thought that I had that we needed to move into the area of financial forensics. Anyone who practices in the business valuation arena always runs the risk of being drawn into the courtroom. And we have businesses valued and there are disputes over the value. And, whether it's in a matrimonial setting, people getting divorced, or whether it's an insolvency proceeding, a bankruptcy or restructuring, or if it's in a fraud context, or partners and shareholders who disagree with each other and one wants to buy the other one out, or one wants to sell out to the other one. It's a world that builds upon business valuation, but it has so many aspects, so many dynamics, so many variables that are different from pure business valuation. So I sat down with Parnell and we laid out a plan as to how we could put an educational curriculum, a body of knowledge, a discipline on the horizon, on the map for the NACVA, and offer the education and credentialing in the field. And we launched the program in the year 2000, and it's come a long way since then.
It really has. I think from when I started within the CVA training program, we introduced in the earlier years, part of the core training was on litigation support. I think initially from a practice management perspective, you touched on the fact that business valuation ultimately, or in most cases, can lead to dispute. And for individuals who are earning a certification in business valuation and have perhaps anchored their practice in business valuation, if they're considering growing their practice into another area, financial litigation, financial forensics is certainly something to be considered. TJ, what is your perspective on that? From a valuation, someone who may have a core practice in business valuation, what are the opportunities and some of the things to consider from your perspective if they're wanting to maybe think about practice in financial litigation?
Right. It's definitely an evolving subject. Let's put it that way. And business valuation is an industry that is growing very rapidly. And in terms of the financial litigation, what I have found personally is those of us who have a lot of experience in business valuation, those of us who are very seasoned in business valuation, are getting utilized more and more in financial litigation because of our knowledge exclusively in business valuation or in some other topic. I mean, just like Michael had indicated that, financial forensics, financial litigation has many different topics in terms of whether it's personal injury or wrongful death, fraud, forensic accounting, those types of things. But as it relates to business valuation in itself, to the extent that someone is very well versed in business valuation, one who has done it for quite some time, it's a natural evolution to then go into financial litigation because of, again, their knowledge associated with valuation. And there's kind of a chicken before the egg type of thing, because at some point in time, you have to get that first opportunity to testify or do a litigation report. So, the track that Michael forefathered, so to speak, and what NACVA has put together allows someone to gain that knowledge, to get that comfortability, to in itself take that next step to financial litigation. But specifically to answer your question, it is a natural evolution. I again though would preface that in order to make that leap, there is a substantial amount of expertise, a substantial amount of knowledge that must transition, cause that transition, allow that transition.
That's actually a really great segue into the Master Analyst for Financial Forensics, our MAFF training, and the body of knowledge that's behind it to sort of give that foundation to making that transition into financial litigation. Michael, talk a bit about the workshop, the Financial Litigation Consulting Professionals Workshop, which is the training program for the MAFF credential, and the body of knowledge, what's covered there, and how someone coming into the program will get that sense of foundational knowledge to begin building on top of.
Sure. The workshop, the Financial Litigation Consulting Professionals Workshop,
yes,
I saw the smile on your face because we have a new name for this 5-day program. It is a 5-day intensive program that brings together many of the areas of financial forensics. I mean, we start out exploring the environment in which the financial forensics professional works. Professional standards, the legal system, what are the dynamics we have to deal with, taking on an engagement, evaluating counsel, evaluating our own capabilities and the standards and guidelines within which we work. We build upon that and drill down into the legal system and to the types of courts that we're going to be working with, the types of matters we're going to be working with, what are the special skills that we need to have if we're going to take our cases into the courtroom, interface with counsel. And we spend a full day going through much of what a professional really needs to get his or her arms around if they're going to be a financial forensics professional and practice in the area. After that first day, we move into the second day, where we focus on the area of damages, business damages, personal damages, lost profits. There's a lawsuit, perhaps a breach of contract, or perhaps a misappropriation of trade secrets or a trademark infringement, whatever the dispute may be. And we get involved and we focus upon what skills does the financial forensics professional need to have, and how do they apply those skills in developing the information, developing their opinions, developing their work product in order to take it into the dispute resolution environment. We wrap the day up with a focus on personal damages, lost earnings, lost personal earnings and benefits. We move into the area of intellectual property damages, which is a very specialized area, dealing with trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, trade dress, all of these areas that the intellectual property attorneys work in and reach out to us for the financial support on. After that second day, the third area we get involved in, and we have a half a day of business valuation and litigation. If you're a valuation expert and you do a lot of valuation, you're going to be drawn into lawsuits. I mean, it's either going to be a shareholder dispute or a family law matter or a diminution of the value of a business because of some act on behalf of another party. And what are the laws that govern the work that we do in valuation in the context of litigation? How does it differ from state to state? What are the things that the valuation expert has to think about differently in the context of litigation? Are there different standards of value, different valuation dates, different levels of value, and much of it is controlled by the case law or the code section, where in pure valuation we may be working solely with professional standards and the guidelines that we have. After evaluation, we move into the world of family law. Many financial forensics professionals, and myself included, I got into it through the family law channel. I went to work for and this was back in the mid-70s, for a small accounting firm that was a leader in the field. I mean, they were blazing trails because not a lot of people were doing litigation-based accounting. Not a lot of them were doing financial forensics. And the CPA I was working for was one of the leaders in the field in family law litigation. We're dealing with income and earnings and support, distribution of the assets, the value of the business, the marital business. Does the husband own it or the wife own it, or do they both own it? What about allocation of value in the real property and all of that? So it's an area that we get into. After that day, that just gets us through day 3. And you can see there's a lot of stuff we cover in this program. I mean, as I tell the attendees, it is a mile wide and a foot deep. It whets your appetite, but it also lets you know about the various areas that you can choose to specialize in if you're going to be a financial forensics professional. On day number 4, we get involved in the world of fraud deterrence, fraud detection, financial statement fraud. What do we deal with when we look at misrepresentations and misappropriations and all of that? And that's a pretty intensive area. On day number 5, we get into some of the more technical specialty areas. We deal with bankruptcy, insolvency, restructuring, very, very specialized area. The standards of value, the approaches are somewhat different than the way we would in a traditional valuation setting. What is the reporting? What does the court require? How does the financial forensics professional, the forensic accountant, support counsel in counsel's efforts to meet all the court requirements and serve the interests of the parties in the bankruptcy or insolvency? We also wrap up the program with a section on computer forensics, and we've got some excellent instructors in that area. We've got excellent instructors in all of the areas. But it's a very, very specialized area. Back in my day, when I first got into it, computer forensics were really a non-issue. I mean, just they weren't an issue because computers were not used that heavily back in the 70s and early 80s. But today,
didn't you invent the computer, Michael?
Could I what?
Didn't you invent the computer?
Oh, yeah, right. I invented the abacus. I checked my computer's numbers with an abacus. I remember my very first My very first PC. It
Yeah.
didn't have a hard drive. It had 2 floppy drives. It had a green screen. There was no color on the screen,
Right.
and it was $4,000.
Well, it certainly is an important aspect in today's world, and computer forensics is a core part of that training. A question for you, TJ, and thank you, Michael, for summarizing the training and the body of knowledge. For those of you who are joining us, if you're interested in the MAFF certification, requires that you apply for the credential. And based on experience and in hours, but also experience in specialized matters, you can qualify for the certification, and the training program itself can support with that. There is a proctored exam that is given for all candidates based on the body of knowledge. And so by meeting the criteria and also by passing the proctored exam, you can earn the certification. You can find more about the credential by going to nacva.com/MAFF. It discusses the qualifications, the criteria, and also the training. TJ, speaking of the credential itself, there are a couple of other certifications in this space relating to financial litigation or fraud or forensics. What is your perspective on what makes the MAFF unique in consideration of the other credentials in the marketplace in litigation, financial litigation, or in fraud?
Yeah, there are other credentials, and I think that one thing that is there are a multitude of different characteristics that the MAFF credential has that makes it beneficial. And one is the amount of information that is provided by the instructors of the class. Most of the instructors have been in the game. They know how the game is played. They know the rules of the courts. They know the different areas that an opposing expert may attack, maybe an opposing attorney may question. And so the credential itself is beneficial because of the breadth of it. Essentially allows someone to be exposed to all the different areas of financial litigation. And while the credential does not make you an expert immediately in those fields, it opens you up to those different areas to then be able to say, okay, lost profits or commercial damages interests me. So therefore, I'm going to take a deeper dive into commercial damages. Maybe it's family law. I'll take a deeper dive into family law, and allows that it exposes the individual to all areas of financial litigation, and then them lead themselves into the area that interests them.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is one thing, having been in this field, you have to be interested. It has to be a topic that interests you, because the industry is quickly changing where you can't be an expert of everything. And so you have to have, maybe it's one area, maybe it's two areas that you are considered to be an expert in, and not you yourself, but where others consider. And that's the benefit of the proctored exam, is to say, look, you have had this proctored exam. Here are the subject matters of the proctored exam. So therefore, you have someone other than yourself saying that you're an expert. Now, again, you have to have education beyond that. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But again, the amount of information you're exposed to is very beneficial.
That's an excellent point, TJ. So just to summarize that, the certification, as Michael and TJ have discussed, lays a solid foundation in the legal environment, requirements, approach to damages, federal rules of evidence, supporting the attorney, in the judicial system itself. But for more specialized training on top of the credential, to make TJ's point, the NACVA has a series of financial litigation specialty training. Each of these trainings are 15 to 20 hours of deep dive methodologies and approaches for bankruptcy, insolvency, restructuring, business valuation and litigation, business and intellectual property damages, business interruptions and lost profits, commercial damages and lost profits, fraud risk management, matrimonial litigation, personal injury, and wrongful death. All of those have individual trainings, 15 to 20 hours individually, to take this foundational knowledge from the certification program to match your area of interest to get more specialized training. And so you can find that on the NACVA website in the upper right-hand corner in the search box. If you type in financial litigation, there will be a series of search results that will come up when you find that. And you can certainly then look into all of these specific training programs, what you will learn, how they will benefit your practice. Most of these courses are offered live online or live online or on demand. So Michael, TJ, to wrap up our conversation, both of you maybe just give a bit of perspective as to how you benefited from this area of specialty in your practice, and how you personally have moved your practice to some success through this area of specialization.
Let me start. I got into accounting back in the early 70s, and I didn't like it. I was looking for a way out of accounting. And I went to work for a CPA who did what he referred to as special projects. And the special projects were family law engagements, doing forensic accounting, supporting counsel, valuation in the context of family law. And I really liked that aspect of the business because it wasn't pure accounting, pure rule-based accounting, pure financial reporting. It really got me into the dynamics, human dynamics, the dynamics of the legal system, the dynamics of the courtroom, the dynamics of dealing with people who were distraught because their marriages were breaking down. And it brought a human element into it. And it gave me an opportunity to refocus out of the traditional accounting arena, but build upon my skills in the area and pursue a career in a field that I could find exciting. I mean, we were back in the days of the wild, wild west back then. You know, we didn't have the standards, the guidelines, the state of the art, the educational courses that we have. It's evolved. It's evolved quite a bit. And I've had the good fortune of being involved for so long and enjoying the world of teaching that I've been able to incorporate teaching these programs and developing the curricula and body of knowledge and, the various foundations in addition to just practicing in the field. And, as I look back at it, I'm pleased that I stumbled across the world of litigation and financial forensics. It's a lot more exciting and has certainly been a big part of my career.
Yeah, and I mirror a lot of what Michael indicated in that I come from a little bit different background. My MBA is in finance, and so my mind thinks more finance oriented, and a lot of what we do in financial litigation is not only an accounting based system, but it's also a finance based system as well. And so having knowledge in education in both accounting and finance on my part, the financial litigation interested me because it incorporated both aspects, accounting and finance. And in addition to that, as Michael indicated, there are no two cases that are alike. And so there are variables that are much different from engagement to engagement, which holds true whether or not you're in litigation or not in litigation, especially as it relates to business valuation. And so that component of not getting a repetitive sense of business is what has interested me, is what caused my practice to evolve, is because I enjoy what I do, and having that ability to see different cases, to meet different people, to it might be an area that is in business valuation or commercial damages that you may not have been exposed to before, a specific topic that then leads to a ton of research that then exposes another area. So it's just that it is an evolving practice. It's consistently evolving, and that part excites me.
Yeah. Well, in the United States, we all know it's a lot of litigation, people suing people. And those
good
people
for business.
need attorneys, and those attorneys need experts to calculate those damages and help them to determine those results. And so if you are joining us today, again, thank you. If you're looking for a way to expand and grow your practice, just realize that there's a lot of opportunity in financial litigation, and for you to get some core common body of knowledge through the MAFF certification, but then specialized training in an area of interest. Just to remind you all that you can go to nacva.com/MAFF to learn about the credential itself. You can also, at nacva.com, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a search box, type in financial litigation, and it will lead you to the specialty training that we have. A special offer for those of you who are joining us online: if you contact me by the end of the year, interested in obtaining the MAFF, call me directly, and I'd be happy to waive your exam fee for the MAFF credential. We will waive your exam fee. The training, the membership, all the other fees will apply. But if you're really serious to learn more about it, give me a call. I'd be happy to chat with you about it. And if you enroll into the certification program, we will waive your exam fee. So happy holidays to everybody. Michael, TJ, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Brian.
And I think before we exit, we're all going to be graced with the beautiful singing skills of Michael Kaplan, who, in addition to pioneering the industry, helping us to create this credential in financial litigation, he also is an avid songwriter and singer. So stick with us for just a few more minutes while Michael blesses us with the NACVA song. Take it away, Michael.
Cap rates and discounts and cash flow projections, rev rules and case law and obscure code sections, Abraham updates and Duff and Phelps too, Brian and TJ to name just a few, annual conferences, great education, member support from the organization, professional partnerships, industry stats. We value the shares for your flips and your grats. Listed proudly with your vitae, NACVA. For qualified experts in BV today, let NACVA show you the way.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. TJ, next time you're singing.
Oh my.
Thanks, everyone. Happy holidays.
Take care.
If you're interested in learning more, just reach out to me at nacva.com. We'll see you next time.